Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to another TBR video. For those of you who might be new, for the purpose of this video, TBR means to be released. At the beginning of each month, I take a look at new releases and then I pick a few that I personally find interesting and I share them with you. And as always, we start out with literary fiction, and this pick might not surprise you because you know how much I love Janet Winterson. And she has a new book out, coming out the 28th of May, FRAN Kiss STEIN. And yes, there are 3 S's in the title, although it refers to Frankenstein. It's a retelling of Mary Shelley creating her famous book about Frankenstein, but it's also set in the present day, where you have a transgender doctor who falls in love with another scientist called STEIN or STEIN, who is into the debate of developing artificial intelligence. And then in the future, you have a group of people who create those artificial intelligences. I mean, it sounds a bit confusing. I admit that. But for me, Janet Winterson is just a brilliant author. She's, by the way, born in Manchester, 1959. And ever since I read Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, all the way back in the 1990s, I think 1995, I love her work. It's not that I adore every book she writes, but I will definitely buy and read every book she writes. And this one, Mary Shelley's creation of Frankenstein, and then combining that with, a present-day Brexit situation and the future of humanity with artificial intelligence, I thought the premise sounds brilliant. And again, Janet Winterson. My next pick, also literary fiction, might surprise you more because it's YA. And if you know my channel, I don't read much YA, hardly ever, to be precise. But this one is Tiffany D. Jackson's new book, Let Me Hear the Rhyme, coming out on the 21st of May. And I loved Tiffany Jackson's previous novel, Allegedly. I thought it was brilliant. So I just want to read her new book. Let Me Hear a Rhyme is about a group of friends, teenagers in Brooklyn, who want to celebrate the life of a dead friend, Steph, who left a mixtape of rap music, and they want to make him famous. And they succeed, obviously. They create a name for this artist, the architect, and then it's a hit, and they get the music gets discovered by a music mogul or something. I'm looking for words here, but anyway, and they also have to confront or find out, as far as I can see from the blurb, what really happened to Steph. I don't know whether this will be a book for me, to be quite honest. Like I said, YA, I don't know, but I loved Allegedly so much that I'm willing to give it a try. My next pick for the May TBR is more up my alley because it's historical fiction, a retelling, and that is Natalie Haynes's 1,000 Ships that came out on the 2nd of May, this week, and the Kindle edition even came out earlier, end of April. Now, Natalie Haynes is a British classicist and broadcaster, and she's no stranger to retellings because her last book, The Children of Jocasta, was a retelling of the Oedipus and Antigone myth. And this one, 1,000 Ships, is about the Trojan War, but after the Trojan War. So in a way, it picks up where The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker ends, because Silence of the Girls is a retelling of the end, the last portion of the Trojan War. It's supposed to be told from the perspective of the women who, after the fall of Troy, are enslaved. a good retelling is always something for me. You know me. And I thought it was interesting, to pick this book because I just read in April, I read The Silence of the Girls and really enjoyed it. So I'm curious to see what Natalie Haynes does with, the life of women after the end of the Trojan War. We stay with historical fiction, but with a surprising author, at least for me, and that is Jo Walton with her new book Lent, coming out on the 28th of May. Now, you might be familiar with Jo Walton, like I am, as a sci-fi writer, and I love her as a sci-fi writer, but this is her, as far as I know, first venture into historical fiction. Lent is a book about Savonarola. He was, I think he was a fascinating figure of Renaissance Florence, 15th century Florence. And as far as I understood, this book is a retelling, reimagining maybe even of his life. Savonarola was a priest, but he was also a scientist, a prophet, a heretic. His life didn't end well. He was tried for heresy and killed, executed. So we know that this book about his life can't end well, but I'm really interested to see an author that I love very much in a particular genre, sci-fi, in this with Jo Walton, doing something completely different, historical fiction. Now, I don't know whether this is a historical fiction like you are used to, or whether she will put, sci-fi or magical realism elements in it. But I'm willing to try it, first of all, because I think Savonarola, like I said, is an absolutely fascinating figure. And second of all, because Jo Walton is such a good author. So Lent by Jo Walton on the 28th of May. We'll see what she makes of it. Next, we move on to nonfiction. And I picked a book that I personally am really excited about, and that is Kate Stewart, A Well-Read Woman, a biography of Ruth Rappaport. The book came out already 1st of May, so it is available. Kate Stewart is a librarian herself. You can read on her Goodreads page, she's a third-generation librarian. And this book, A Well-Read Woman, about Ruth Rappaport, I think Ruth Rappaport is probably the most famous librarian in the US. She was born she lived in her youth in the Nazi occupation in Germany. She fled to East Germany and later to the US. And then she became a librarian for the Library of Congress. She did famous work there, research work, but also, collection work. And I think her life is fascinating. And if you love libraries and if you love books about people who work in books or work in libraries, I think this is a perfect pick. And except for that, apart from that, I think Ruth Rappaport's life is just fascinating, the background and what she did later and, her legacy as a librarian. So I'm really looking forward to A Well-Read Woman by Kate Stewart. And as always, we end the TBR with sci-fi and a debut at that, and that is Joanne Ramos's The Farm, which will come out next week on the 7th of May. Joanne Ramos was born in the Philippines, and she moved to the US, to Wisconsin, when she was 6 or 7. She later worked in investment banking, can you believe it? And then became a writer for The Economist. And The Farm is, like I said, her first novel. The premise is about a farm, quote unquote. It's a luxurious retreat where you have everything you want, from organic food to workouts, personal trainers. You can have a massage every day if you want it, and it's all for free. There's a selection process for people who want to enter the farm, and if you are chosen, everything is free. There's the only catch, only quote unquote, is that you have to live in this farm for 9 months. You can't leave, and everything you do and say is monitored. So that's the premise. And then you have, from what I understand, your main character, Jane, who is, like the author, an immigrant from the Philippines. She is a single mother, pregnant, and she is one of the lucky few, if you can call it lucky, to be selected to enter this program in the farm. And then the story takes off from there, because obviously Jane wants to reconnect with her life outside for various reasons, but you are not allowed to. You are confined to the farm. Yeah. Of course, this book is marketed as the umpteenth new Handmaid's Tale. You know how I hate this, but the premise sounds interesting, and it all depends on the execution, of course, whether it's a good book or not. So we'll see. But I'm always looking for new authors, certainly in the sci-fi area, and this premise of a secluded farm sounded interesting enough to make my pick for the May TBR. So these were the books that I wanted to present to you, that I'm excited about, that will come out in May. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments whether any of the books that I mentioned interest you, or whether you have a May release that you are particularly excited about. I'm always happy to get recommendations, and I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye-bye.